nomophobia.
Yeah.
Nomophobia is no mobile phone phobia. So people really can get affected by not having a mobile phone in their hand throughout
Yeah.
the day.
Yes.
So this is striking information because I never thought of this in a very serious way. But if you really think, even we get anxious when our phone's not around. If we know where it is, we'll be calm. But if we don't know where the phone is, we will be a bit anxious, like whether we've lost it or thinking various sorts of things. But for young children and young adults, this is even more serious than not knowing where their phone is. This is a very irrational behavior of getting panic attacks
Mm.
by not having their phone in their hands.
Hi there, hi, welcome back to Psychology with Dakshi Walia. I am Dakshi Walia and I have an MSc, a Master of Science in Health Psychology. And today we have another wonderful guest with us. Today we have Hansika Ambahelagedara, who is a doctoral researcher at the Faculty of Educational Sciences, University of Helsinki, Finland. She works in the field of developmental and cyber psychology. Her research focuses on young people's well being in the digital era. Currently, she is investigating how young people's digital skills affect their mental well being, as well as their exposure to online risks and what factors may contribute to such adverse effects of online platforms using open access data from the European Union Horizon Project Y Skills. She's a member of the European Association of Developmental Psychology, as well as a member of the International Society for the Study of Behavioral Development. Together, we explore youth mental well being in the digital age, including how social media and digital environments shape identity, well being, and belonging, the psychological impact of online risks and screen time, and how young people can build healthier relationships with technology. We also discuss mental health awareness, digital literacy, and what educators, parents, and policymakers need to understand about growing up online today. At the end of the conversation, there's also some advice for future researchers, future doctoral scholars who want to pursue research as their career, who want to go into academia. There's some advice for you at the end of the conversation. So yeah, it's absolutely a very important conversation to have, considering how young children are growing up in a world that is so different to the one that we grew up in. It's a different environment where technology is at the center of their lives, and there are a lot of benefits to it, but some risks as well. And this is a really balanced conversation that touches upon all of the aspects of digital well-being and mental health. So I'm really looking forward for you to see this. If you like this conversation and if you'd want to see more of such conversations, please subscribe, like, share, and comment so that this reaches more people who need it, and so that we can, invite more guests onto the podcast. There's no pressure at all, but if you'd like, you can also buy me a coffee through a link in the description down below. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I'm really glad you're here. Now let's dive right into the conversation with Hansika Ambahelagedara.
Hi.
Hello.
How are
Hi.
you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you so much for joining in. It's so good to see
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you and get to know
Yeah.
you. It's really nice how we met and how we crossed paths.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just to tell everyone, we met at a open science writing week near Porto, and we
Mm-hmm.
spent some days together, and it was really nice to get to know you. And then we went to
Mm.
Porto and we had like a breakfast and
Yeah, like a nice day out. Yeah,
yes. And then we went to the
yeah,
library, of course, the Harry Potter library,
yeah,
um, and you got a book of a different language, which was really, it was, that was a
yeah,
bit of a mess up, yeah. So yeah, we got to know each other so much, and I think it's a great opportunity to get to know about your research, what you're doing, about your doctoral studies. If you could tell me a bit about your journey into psychology, how did you start from bachelor's? How did you come to pick psychology, and then what happened beyond in your academic journey, your professional journey? So if you could share a bit about that.
yeah. So, to all the listeners and the audience, my name is Hansika, and I come from Sri Lanka, and I come from the central part, which is called Kandy. And then for my A levels, I chose media and communication studies and French as a language and English literature.
Hmm.
And from there, I got into the university, one of the most prestigious universities in Sri Lanka, which is also which was also located in my hometown, and it's called the University of Peradeniya, if someone wants to check on that.
Yeah.
So there, the first year was like a normal year. We studied everything, and from second year onwards, we got selected to certain fields, and I got selected to. I had enough marks to get selected to the psychology field to do a special degree in psychology. So
Hmm.
that's how I ended up doing psychology uh, and getting a degree uh, within this field. Actually, it was not that planned. I was not. It was not something uh, I had envisioned for myself when I was schooling,
Yeah.
but
What did you
then
envision initially?
uh, well it yeah, the thing is I did not envision as a certain profession. My goal was to like get into university and do my higher studies in any field that I would be chosen to.
Yeah.
So and luckily this was very passionate in that sense. I really liked the subject, and I got good grades, and I was like performing well. So I gained that confidence to uh, pursue my studies in the field.
Mm.
So that's how, after my bachelor's degree, I joined the same university in the Faculty of Medicine, actually, uh, in the Department of Psychiatry as a research assistant slash temporary lecturer.
Mm.
So this was very clinical, like the clinical perspective of psychology. In my bachelor's, I just studied psychology in general, like cognitive psychology and Buddhist psychology, and so and so. And this was like hands-on experience when I did my research assistant job in the Faculty of Medicine. And there I also gained some research skills as well as teaching skills in my own language. So that was really interesting. And I got to handle cases where young kids were facing mental illnesses such as ADHD or autism and Down syndrome and so. And then I also worked with the LGBTIQ community there, and I did research on them when I was doing my bachelor's studies, and when I was in this uh, research assistant position, I got in with my professor, and we did some research on them as well. It was a very important, like an eye-opening topic for me as well, because these communities are heavily, heavily marginalized in Sri Lanka compared to the western part of the world. Now that
Yeah.
I'm in that part of the world, I can see the clear difference. And yeah, and then then my next step was to continue my studies abroad,
Mm-hmm.
and then uh, I chose Finland due to both professional and personal reasons, and then I got selected to uh, the University of Oulu, which is in the very northern part of the country in Finland.
Yeah, very cold.
So yeah, it's very cold and the winters are extreme.
Yeah.
And then there I uh, continued my master's in the program of learning, education, and technology. So a slightly different path,
Mm.
but uh, that's when education and psychology kind of overlapped in my journey. And I to be honest, I really wanted to do a degree in psychology, but then in Finland, it's not possible um, if you don't speak the language or if you don't handle the Finnish language really
Okay.
well,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't offer just masters in psychology where I can study in English. It has to come from the bachelor's,
Mm.
so which I didn't have the opportunity to do so. So this was the optimal way to study. Then even in my master's research thesis, I um, did something that overrides with psychology. So I used the basic psychological need satisfaction theory, and then used that to see young adults self-regulated learning in online platforms. And from there, uh, I had a bit of a gap between my master's and my PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, when I got selected to the PhD program, I then then it was the perfect moment for me to combine my bachelor's and my master's. So that's when I chose the topic of uh, young people's well-being during the digital era, where I studied a bit of technology in my master's program. So I was curious, and I tried to embed both of these aspects and continue my studies from there onwards.
Amazing, amazing. So you're now doing a PhD in developmental and child psychology at University of
Yes,
Helsinki.
yes. So
Okay.
I belong to the Faculty of Education, and that uh, so it could be developmental psychology if we want to reframe it that in
Mm-hmm.
that sense, because my research lab it's very interdisciplinary and people do different kinds of research and it's
Yeah.
not like limited to one thing,
Mm-hmm.
but uh, s- like educational psychology could be one big factor
Yeah.
there. So
Amazing. That's amazing. And what drew you specifically towards researching youth mental well-being in the digital era? So was there a particular like experience or question that you came across or an observation that drew you towards this, or was it mm, is this a project that was there that you thought it was interesting, or was it like your own sort of interest that you pursued?
yeah, when I first wrote my research proposal to submit to this PhD program, this is where I really thought, like I mentioned before, like how to connect my bachelor's degree in psychology and my master's degree in learning, education, and technology together,
Yeah.
and to come up with something that's interesting and that's relevant to the modern world. And I thought that with this burst of new technology, social media, generative AI, this would be a very nice case study for me to study in my PhD and do my research in the field.
Amazing. And you're in your second year of PhD? Or,
Yes, I'm
yeah,
in my second year. Yeah.
amazing. Awesome. So, this is a good headway towards your research topic. I was reading a bit about it, and you already know there's so much research on, how this is an issue that needs attention. You know, WHO, European Union, both have called to address youth well-being in the digital space, social media, tablets, smartphones, and other technologies. So yes, let's go deeper into your research topic. What does it mean to you as a researcher when you talk about youth mental well-being in the digital era? What are you trying to find? What are you trying to explore? What's the question?
So yeah, in my PhD
Mm-hmm.
specifically, I was fortunate to work with already existing data. So I was given this open access data set from Europe, where
Mm-hmm.
they've collected data from 6 different countries, including Portugal, Finland, and Spain, Italy, Germany, Estonia.
Mm-hmm.
And they've collected various sorts of uh, data related to their online behavior, young people's online behavior, and the age range is from 9 to uh, 17, like from secondary school to high school,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of range. And they've collected data in school premises and sometimes of online because of the COVID restrictions they had during that time. And there, when I read the data sets and when I read the reports that they've already published from this data set, I thought of investigating young people's digital skills and how it's connected to their well-being. So in my first study, which is in press, it's accepted and it will be published in a
Amazing.
couple of days.
Awesome.
So yeah, in there I um, investigated how different digital skills, how different dimensions of these skills would affect their online risk exposure, and then how these skills would also affect their mental well-being.
Yeah.
So when we talk about digital skills, immediately what we think of is how we operate a computer, um, how we uh, know to switch on, switch off a computer, like very technical aspect of these skills.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are other skills that's really important when it comes to navigate these spaces in a responsible way. And this has to be taught to young children from a very early age on. So I investigated technical skills and information navigation and operational skills. And then I also looked at communication and interaction skills. And then I looked at content creation and production skills, and also their overall digital knowledge on these skills and how they're connected to their risk exposure. And it was interesting for me to find out that different skills have different effects on
Mm-hmm.
online risk. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, technic technical and operational skills and content creation and production skills. So these skills will elevate young people's exposure to online risk. And in turn, they would also reduce young people's mental well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting because communication and interaction skills and information navigation and processing skills would uh, um, minimize young people's exposure to online risk. And in that sense, in turn, uh, enhance their mental well being.
Right.
Uh, so it's important that we look at each of these skills differently and we give each of these skills the equal weight and like try to explore what their effect is on young people's mental well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And it's we talk about digital literacy, and it's important to have digital literacy. And if you have digital literacy, uh, it would be better for your mental well-being and your academic performances. That's the common norm. But digital literacy can be many things.
Yeah,
So it's important to look at each of these aspects in a fine-tuned manner to see what the real effects are on the well-being and the exposure to risks and maybe other things. In my first study, this is what I explored actually.
amazing. So there's an idea that the more literacy you have, the risks will be lower, but that's not what you've found. You've actually found that aspects of these skills can actually increase or reduce.
Exactly.
Amazing. That's really interesting. Um, what are some of these online risks that we're talking about? Like when you mention online risks, what are those? And a bit more on how that affects, the life satisfaction aspect that you found, or the well-being aspect of young people's well-being. If you could touch upon that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So in my study, um, I've looked into cyber hate,
Hmm.
where young people get exposed to different uh, racist and discriminatory conversations and content. So that's one thing. And then mm, online content that can be really negative to your health. For example, if you are exposed to content such as you should be very skinny and content that would affect your body image,
Yeah.
that's a risk. And then there's content related to sexuality, and this is debatable because in my study I uh, looked at sexual content online and also um, sexual content interaction, and I combined all of these together for my model to work. But it's they have very overlapping common aspects statistically. So I was able to put everything together and create one common norm as exposure to online risk.
Hmm.
But but I would like to say that it's also important that we look at each of these risks differently, because they can more or less have different impact on young people's lifestyles. And then if we think about a clinical perspective, this is something not related to my study, something that I'd like to speak in a general sense.
Yeah.
And it's that people young people and people in adults even can get exposed to different types of risks, as I mentioned before. And also we can look at these risks in other perspectives. Risk can be anything. So it can be mental health risk and or social isolation risk and cognitive risk where they cannot perform academically because of their overconsumption of these digital devices.
Mm.
And then they will be overloaded with so much information that would uh, lead to some sort of a fatigue, exhaustion of this um, information. So if we think about the clinical, like a pathological perspective of this overconsumption or the negative ways of handling digital devices and digital platforms, we can see there are upcoming emerging diagnoses that's really interesting because there's something called performance fatigue, where people can be really exhausted by using these digital devices and being online from day to night.
Yeah,
It's called digital exhaustion. Even we feel like when we spend hours of scrolling, oh, this is too much. I just need a break
yeah, the
from
head.
this. And
Yeah,
then
you
we
have a
just,
headache. Absolutely.
yes, you just
Yeah,
keep your phone away and try to go for a walk or something. But that is also if you are aware of your feelings and if you know how to take actions uh, to avoid these problems. But for young children, they don't know what to do. So it's important that as adults, we teach them how to navigate these spaces online and how to use appropriate data and how to take a break when it's needed. So it's important. And maybe you've heard, Dakshi, this is something I really found interesting, and this is something I found when I was doing my research for this podcast. So there's an emerging diagnosis, mental illness diagnosis called nomophobia.
yeah,
Nomophobia is no mobile phone phobia. So people really can uh, get affected by not having a mobile phone in their hand throughout
yeah.
the day.
Yes.
So this is striking information because I never thought of this in a very serious way. But if you really think, even we get anxious when our phone's not around. If we know where it is, we'll be calm. But if we don't know where the phone is, we will be a bit anxious, like whether we've lost it or thinking various sorts of things. And but for young children and young adults, this is even more serious than not knowing where their phone is. This is a very irrational behavior of getting panic attacks
Mm,
by not having their phone in their hands.
mm,
So this is something very serious that we need to take actions on, and that we need to um, let the world know that these things can happen. These type of illnesses can occur uh, when you are addicted to
yeah,
your mobile phones.
absolutely.
And
You experience
yeah,
separation anxiety when you like don't have your phone around.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
and even if you delete, like, I've been deleting the apps, like everything. I'm just like, I
Mm,
don't want to be on the apps. Like, I don't want to use
mm,
Instagram. I don't want it. But it takes me a couple of days to sort of regulate myself and be like, okay, I'm not on the app. Like, what do I do with my phone now? You know? But for a young
yeah.
child who's like come into the world with this technology ever present everywhere, um, like they don't know any other world, right? This is their
Yeah.
reality. So you're so right when this is a parent's job to make sure the child understands what it is or not to let them use so much of screens. Um, yeah, so let's talk a bit about children, young people. What age is most affected in your understanding? Is it an age range like 11, 9? I know you're studying from 9 to what's
Uh,
your
the outlier was 21 years old, but then the range was teen years overall.
hmm teen years, yeah. Is there a particular age group that's more affected by digital technology in your research and your literature? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, I tried to find a pattern to see whether there's any age difference, but in my um, study, I did not find any significant results. But that does not mean that there isn't a pattern to this. There could be,
Mm,
and I'm very well aware that there are research out there that's giving you this information, but I cannot be 100% sure what age is the most affected age. of these adverse effects of digital platforms. But then the common norm of having a digital phone or having access to these social media platforms is the age of 13.
Okay.
So I'd say age 13 or above can be more affected by these atrocities of digital world in
Mm.
that sense. But I would also like to touch upon the fact, actually, that digital platforms and social media and screen time, not all of these things combined would cause negative things, not only negative things. This is a risk opportunity balance that we talk about. So we get access to all the information we need sometimes, and even for young people, if, for example, this is a very simple example, um, if they find a simple map being difficult for them, they could easily Google or they could easily watch a YouTube video and then just learn how to do it. So it these uh, platforms could also increase your cognitive skills, academic performance if you use it in the correct sense. So this is also really important to know that uh, not everything related to digital platforms, environments is negative. There are a lot of positives to this world, this uh, reality of digital platforms that we use in
Yeah,
our lives. Yeah,
absolutely. It's not all negative and it doesn't
yeah,
have to be. Um,
yeah.
yeah. What are some of the ways in which digital skills are positive for us? Let's discuss both ends and how to like strike a balance between those two.
Mm, yeah, that is true. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, if we think about educational benefits, we can think about access to knowledge, like I mentioned, and then online learning, because sometimes, so this is a universal, this has become a universal thing, these digital environments and platforms, even in the um, uh, other side of the world from this side to the world. Like it's a spectrum and people have access to anything they need,
Yeah.
even if you're coming from a developed country, underdeveloping country, or developing country. So online learning is a main um positive aspect uh, to these digital platforms. And then we have digital literacy. You can be educated how to use and how to retrieve information and whatnot. And then you can also improve your creativity and content creation skills. You, I mean, when you go on Instagram or TikTok or similar platforms, you can see how creative people can be with their video editing skills to photography. And these are new hobbies, passions that they learnt themselves by looking at other content that they get exposed to. So this is really interesting to elevate their skills when it comes to content creation and creativity, because everything has gone online nowadays. Even if you do art, it can be in an online platform. So for these types of educational reasons, these settings can be really beneficial. And so if we talk about social benefits, well, there's lots of support systems if you want to ask professional help or informal help if you are going through a mental mm, health crisis. I mean, you can just download an app and start talking with a professional mental health therapist if you would like to, if you want to do that.
Yeah.
And then the civic and active engagement you can get from these platforms. You can be politically informed on
Mm-hmm.
what's happening around you, what's happening in the world, and then you can get um, actionable decisions and like stand your ground in that sense.
Yeah,
And then also to have connections with your family, friends. And this is something really interesting. For example, if we talk about the two of us, we met for 1 week, and after that, it was purely online, but we kept our connections through these
yeah,
platforms. So this is really amazing that we get to have these kind of collaborations and these kind of friendships through these platforms. And then with psychological benefits, you can express yourself more. You can just let your heart out, and then um, just make peace with it. And then you can explore your identity, and then you can get emotional support. So these are really nice things about uh, being online or going digital, I'd say.
absolutely. Also, it's now a form of employment because people are earning money through social media.
Yes,
Yeah, so
true.
it's not all bad. So yeah, this is all we want to ensure that, you're not afraid of it, but how do you strike a balance with the risks
Yeah,
and the positive aspects of social media? Um,
yeah.
what what do you think? Where are we going wrong when we're using um, all of these technologies? Uh, I think we're all affected. We're all getting the benefits, but at the same time, we're all getting affected as well. So, how do we strike a balance between the two?
Yeah, this is also a point where it's really important to develop your skill sets when it
Hmm.
comes to handling these spaces, and also your mental capacity when it comes to that. And uh, this is really interesting because I remember in my first article, this is when I was writing my article. I had in my literature review, I wrote something like mm, young young people have become digital natives, and so they are so these platforms are an integral part of their lives, so and so and so. But then my one of my supervisors was like, "Why did you put the term digital natives here?" And I said, "Because they've grown up with that, and that's the only reality they know. They don't know a reality that exists without technology. It's just us. Ours is the last generation that
Yeah,
kind of um, knows the difference. People growing, young people growing up today, they don't know the difference. They've always grown up with technology. But then what he said to me was also really interesting. He said, yes, it's true, but that does not mean that they automatically become digital natives.
mm,
Uh, you just need to learn how to handle these spaces. Otherwise, you're just so lost. Uh, so, for example, we learn how to read, write from the age of 2, 3, and now parents are giving their children mobile phones when they are like 2, 3 years old as well. And then sometimes parents are so proud of how these kids know to turn on a video, turn on camera, and
yeah,
take a selfie, take some photos, etc. But then with that, they need to teach how to be responsible with this device. And when they grow up, they get on social media platforms. And there too, adults, parents, policymakers, educators, all of them have a responsibility to teach these young people how to be careful with this. Otherwise, it's just there can be very negative consequences. So, and how to uh, find this right balance if there's one. So this is also really interesting, and I think we've gone to a point where uh, it has it can be maybe it's a digital pandemic where students have lost their motivation and their academic performances have drastically been lower than before.
Mm.
So countries nationwide, they try to solve this problem by taking various measurable actions. So, for example, one thing is this discussion on social media ban. Australia already did that for
16 and
teens under 16 years old, I
yeah,
assume.
by
Yeah,
16. Hmm.
by 16, yeah. And then this too can be viewed by adolescents as a punishment instead of reward or something.
Mm.
So you just have to be very tactical when it comes to these things, because if they see it as a punishment, um, and they are very high on adrenaline during these stages of developmental phase, they might try to sneak around and try to uh, find some sort of ways to stay connected through online and social media platforms with others, and
Hmm.
it's not necessarily a good thing. And that is why I think in the UK especially, there are professors who advocate uh, that social media is not necessarily a bad thing and there shouldn't be any bans. So it's a very it's debatable.
Yeah, you're seeing countries were are a bit battling in the sense that what they should do. Australia has already put a ban, and UK is considering. What's happening in Finland at the moment? Like, how are they handling this? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I'd like to touch upon Finland as well as other Nordic countries because
Yes.
it's interesting because these Nordic countries, they were the first to kind of advocate, promote these digital settings of classrooms and uh, going towards fully digitized uh, classrooms
Hmm.
where they've replaced books with tabs and smartphones and computers.
Hmm.
And now uh, they're taking a direct U-turn and trying to shift this again for very traditional, conventional methods of studying, like using textbooks and like physical, actual books. Uh, when it comes to Finland's situation, in some parts of the country and in some municipalities, they've kind of banned using phones during school hours, but under, I think, for under 13 years old. But they are also considering to uh, to do the same ban with upper secondary and high school students. But this is only in some countries, so there's no universal nationwide uh, recommendation or law when it comes to using or not using mobile devices in the schools. And then when it comes to Denmark, they've called this the textbook renaissance, where they have invested millions of euros to replace these tablets and computers with physical textbooks. and they've seen doing so.
Mhm.
So they think this is a good thing to go back to how it was earlier with very physical settings.
Yeah.
And then we have Sweden as well, where they have tried to do these free primary schools, because all of these schools, like schools in these countries, they've used so far they've used high technology and like very emerging technologies to do their schoolwork, and they've introduced certain apps, and they've been very successful doing so. But now I think they see that there can be some sorts of threats to young people's lifestyles and how their personality is shaped and how their academic performances are going. So they've taken these actions, trying to see a difference. So let's see whether they will see a difference, or whether they will have to go back to smartphone and tablets again. So it's now this is interesting because uh, I'd like to hear what you have to say about Portugal and other similar countries around Portugal also.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the eastern part of the world, especially, I'm not too sure about India, but in Sri Lanka, it has always been a ban to take your mobile devices to the school. It's
Yeah.
prohibited, it's restricted. People
Yeah.
can take away your phones immediately if they see it. So it's still the
Absolutely.
same.
Hmm.
And they sometimes they use computers and tablets, but they are not allowed to use these during their free time to scroll on social media and to share and post on social media. And they don't have this internet access to do so. But this is interesting because while these Nordic countries are pulling back from these digital devices screens, developing countries such as Sri Lanka, they're still striving for this access. They don't have this as a luxury. So it's interesting while one part of the world is um, trying to correct their mistakes. Uh, some parts in the world they're trying to still achieve this as a luxury that
Yeah.
they still haven't reached. So yeah.
Yeah, that is super interesting. I do feel like because Nordic countries are a bit and Western countries are a bit more advanced, so they also have this luxury to dial it back and turn it around and be like, okay, we're going to use textbooks, like we're going back to olden days and see how it works because that's how we developed. But there's also sort of an issue for parents and educators because in a country like India, I feel like there's also a safe, it's also a form of safety, right? You go to the
Mm,
school, you're coming back on your own, you need a smartphone, or
mm.
not a smartphone, but at least a phone to be able to
Phone,
like
yeah.
be safe and be able to call. Or what you can
Yeah.
like, you can restrict it during school hours and
Mm,
you can restrict it when you're with parents, but what happens in between is
mm,
something that is not regulated. So I think that's also one thing that creates a bit of a barrier because I do also feel like we need to educate children, we need to educate
mm,
young people to be able to pull back from social
mm,
media or digital media or
mm.
technology on their own, like be equipped to know what's right and wrong. I don't know what you think about that. Yeah.
No, 100%. Yeah, I
Hmm.
agree what you
Hmm.
said, actually.
Yeah.
So how's the
Uh,
situation in Portugal, if I may ask?
I'm
Are you aware of anything or?
I'm really not sure about what's happening at schools, and I'm not sure. But I again, Portugal is a bit behind
Mm,
as compared to Finland. I feel like in
mm,
terms of tech and modernization and advancement and innovation,
yeah.
maybe. Yeah, but let's talk about. I was reading a term, offline vulnerabilities. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but it's the more you are vulnerable in your offline environment, the more impact you have with what's happening online. So, if you have a dysregulated home, or if you're struggling in your personal life as a child, or you're experiencing bullying offline, then you're more susceptible to what's happening online, and to the risks that are present online. So Hansika, do you think there's a role of these offline vulnerabilities on online risks for young people?
Yes, yeah, that is such an interesting point you made, and I think there is,
Hmm.
because when it can go either way. That's the thing, because if you're coming from a dysregulated home or a very dysfunctional home background, or just maybe coming from a very dangerous, poor neighborhood, let's say, even if your family is very nice and comfortable to live in and everything, uh, when you go online, this is to do with their personality. I think
Hmm.
when you go online, you could either be exposed to more risks because that's that's where you are attracted to, that's the tendency that you have,
Yeah,
or you can use online platforms as a safeguard from what you're experiencing offline. So there's this uh, two realities to it, because if if you want reassurance, if you want comfort, if you want someone to uh, someone that would listen to your stories and everything, social media would be a very nice place for you to connect with that sort of people and to share your story and to receive the attention that you don't receive when
at
you are
home.
in an offline setting.
Yeah.
But again, when you are exposed to various types of discrimination and risk and racism and even corporal punishment at home, that could also lead for you to be very angry at the world, and then you go online and then you just do the same behavior. You are mimicking the behaviors that you see in offline environments in the online platforms, and you can become the bully.
Yeah, you
So
could. Yeah, that's true.
so that's yeah, that's a very interesting turning point.
Yeah, you can find it as a way to, I don't know, inflict your.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. That's true. So there's again two sides of this. You can be causing that harm to other people as well,
Mm,
or you could be more vulnerable to other people's
mm.
inflicting that risk on you. Um, so, what, how should we manage that? Because do you think essentially social media, online platforms, digital technology is good for us, but only a certain minority, offline vulnerable minority, is more affected? Do you think we should kind of aim for that, like the offline factors first, and then move on to other things? Or is it like a holistic approach? Is it like multi policy, multi sectoral kind of a thing where everything should come together?
Yeah, I think when it comes to such big issues mm, like uh, coming from a very unhealthy environments in your physical world,
Mm,
I think you need to address that problem first and then move towards your presence in social media and other platforms. But then again, if we think of this issue in a global manner,
Yeah.
this is very new information. But then again, I think there's a trend among the generation Z to not use social media as much as millennials do.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, so they might not be on socially like platforms like where many social interactions happen such as uh, Facebook and
Instagram.
Snapchat, where
Snapchat.
like one-to-one interactions.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. And so I don't know whether there will be anything to be concerned in like coming 40 years when it comes especially to social media platforms. But then there are other concerns like these young generations are growing up with generative AI, and sometimes they can misidentify this uh, artificial intelligence to a real person, and then they can give a personality to these artificial intelligences, and then uh, create a bond with them, which is even more dangerous than going online and chatting with random people. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, so in that sense, I don't know the where we will be headed in like even in 10 years because everything's fast paced. Like right now, the conversation is not around social media anymore. It has gone from there to this generative AI. So the
Mm.
research, the funding, that everything that's been the attention is around generative AI when it comes to educational settings and their emotional components and physiological and psychological components. But that does not mean social media is going to disappear.
Yeah.
So if it's not Facebook, if it's not Instagram, there will be something else that would be coming
Absolutely.
up in 10 years.
Absolutely.
And even in platforms like TikTok, what I personally noticed is that if you know how to uh, how to build your algorithm to your own likes and interests, then
Mm.
it's a very good platform for you to gather information and to fact check to verify this information. That's up to you. That's a different responsibility that would come along with that. But then again, just to gain some general knowledge on what's happening around the world and like when it comes to random things like nature, food habits, and exercise, and so and so, if you build this algorithm that would bring you these sorts of content to your own account, that's a really nice thing that you can do.
Yeah, that's a very good tip. Just like um, modify your algorithm so that it serves
Yeah,
you instead of.
yeah,
That's a very
yeah. Instead of going along with that, it just you make it serve you, just like you mentioned. Yeah,
absolutely. That's a very practical tip, I think, for
yeah.
people. Um, l- I wanted to give like I wanted you to talk to like the person who is using all of these digital tools and affected by it, um, and then to parents and what they can do, and then to like a larger systemic issue of education, policy, psychologists, healthcare professionals working together. So let's start with the individual, a young person who is overwhelmed by social media, by digital technology, by all of the risks that we've mentioned, cyberbullying, misinformation. Let's speak to that person and give them some sort of advice on how to manage this.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you are a teen or a young person or a young adult, even an adult that's who's going through uh, a rough time because of this overconsumption of digital media usage and everything. I, well, I'm not a professional uh, uh, mental health provider, but then, but my advice would be to just take a step back and like really listen to what you want, and then just try to be always responsible and accountable for what you see on your social media, because at the end of the day, it's your own account.
yeah,
It's 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 yours, it's your platform. So you just have to be careful with how you use it and for what you use it and when you use it. Because when it comes to when you use it, you could use it when you are on your way to school, when you're on your way to work, and then you're already overstimulated. And you, if you see something very unpleasant early in the morning, that would just disrupt your entire workflow for that day. So
yeah,
it's a really it's not a good thing for you to go through. So just in that sense, avoiding such incidents is a really good thing. For example, if I give my personal experiences to just to share like what I do, um, I as a principal, I try my level best to avoid going on social media when I'm commuting to work or when I'm just outside. I just don't have a mobile data package. I just use it if I want it. If I want to search for a certain location, I would just get some data and then just do that. But then when I go to work in the morning, even for school children, just try to look outside and just enjoy the nature and like to see what's happening around you. And I've seen a lot of young kids in the same transportation mode that I'm taking. I've seen they're always like that's in the morning, they're like glued to their phones. Like that's the most precious thing in the world that they can just experience at that moment, because they know once they enter the school, it's they don't have that liberty to use their phone as much as they do when there's no one's watching.
yeah,
So they won't know how to navigate these logical thoughts and expressions. So it's up to adults or even um, teenagers who know how to capture their emotions and uh, work with them. They can be really responsible citizens, and they can like let their siblings, younger siblings, know how to use these. And like even parents should set an example for their children at home. And if a parent is always on the phone when their children are playing outside or playing with each other, that would tell them a different story. Like if my mom or dad scrolls, doom scrolling or passive scrolling on social media, why can't I come when I grow up? That's
that's
kind of
true.
the example they would get from that. So it's important that we provide examples for each other and like just try to spread the word of like to take care of ourselves in one way or the other.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's a really good sort of overall advice for young people, it's in your hands. You have to like see where you draw that line and use it for the good. And when it is affecting you, just turn it off. And
Yeah,
there's a lot to
yeah,
experience.
yeah.
For parents, according to your research or anything you've studied, what age they should, like, before this particular certain age, I will not give my children a phone? Or, how, what advice would you give to a parent to ensure that their child is not as affected by it and is able to that they can protect them as much as they can from it, yeah, and regulate it
Yeah,
or manage it for them.
yeah. I think I think uh, from like I'm not too sure, but then people I've I've seen it somewhere that it says the average screen time of a 2-year-old is like 1.5 hours to 2 hours
Yeah,
for the
I
day with mobile devices. That's a
I
lot.
I read like from 8 to 12 it was 4.6 hours
Yeah,
non-school.
that could be accurate. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
from 13 to 18 it was 6.67 hours per day on average, which is like it's a lot.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, true. And then again, uh, this is not going to disappear. This is another dimension of our reality, these digital platforms and digitalization of all the services and everything. So uh, there won't be a, it's there, it won't like, mm, it's, it would be futile to set a certain ban on people like uh, that they need to um, like let their children not use these platforms under age of 12 also, but then like 12 months, but then but I think there's a trend of millennial parenting that they try to avoid giving these cell phones to their children when they are like up until 1 or 2 years old. But then screen time on TVs could be a different thing. And I don't think young kids who are under age of 12 would have social media accounts. Like it would be a rare case. But then right after they hit the teen years, they can set up their own account. So it can be under parental uh, vision, but then again, uh, uh, it could cause very negative effects on children. So even if they have this type of social media accounts and they go connect with their friends and peers, uh, it should be monitored by
Yeah.
parents. And yeah, I think it's just parents have a bigger role to play when it comes to these things. And it's if country-wise or nationwide, if they enforce laws on children under 18 or children under 16 or 13 to not be able to use these platforms, that's a different case. You just have to obey the law because they might do this. This might be a trial for the country, or they might do this uh, just to see what would be the effects after that.
Yeah.
So you can always take your decisions that's backed by statistical data if you want to do your own research. And if not, just to go with your intuition, but then just be aware of these negative aspects of these devices and platforms, and especially the content, not just the devices, but the content that they are
Consuming.
consuming. That's the most important part for parents to monitor.
Yeah. If you had a child, what age would you give them a device for their own, like, for your
Oh, I
personal
really haven't.
preference?
Yeah, I really haven't thought of it. But then, um, yeah, maybe I don't know. Well, this is just I'm coming from a different generation. But then I didn't have my phone until I was 19 or 20 years old.
Yeah.
But that's like I think the phones even like came to the market when I was like 5 or 6 years old. So that's a different scenario. But then, uh, if like you said, if it's for safety precautions, I would give them a cell phone when they're if they're traveling or commuting to school alone, if even if they're like 7 or 8 years old. But
Mhm.
that would not be a smartphone.
It would be like a
And
calling, just calling. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. But
Makes
then
sense.
if they hit a certain age of where their peers are using these phones, and then they can feel left out. So you just have to manage those emotions and those practical aspects also, because if it's only your kid that who does not have a phone and all the kids have phones, that would also kind of
Great.
impact
Comparison.
them psychologically, and that
Mm.
would also, especially during these developmental phases, that would also cause some sort of negative issues when they grow when they grow their personality.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
yeah.
true. Yeah, there would be comparison. That's true. Um, and in terms of education policy, sort of healthcare professionals, uh, a collaborative effort. What else could be done just apart from like banning? Because, of course, that's one solution. But is there anything else that you would recommend or you were interested in exploring that could be a solution for this?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest debate that's happening right now in the UK, because some distinguished professors, they argue that there shouldn't be any ban, and
Yeah.
then other policymakers uh, make their point saying that there should be a ban because it's not healthy for kids. So they have their own valid points, and then you just have to find a middle ground to work on and then just go from there. But then psychologists can study the emotional effects and then get data from there and just present that. And then the educators can promote digital literacy and then see how young people's cognitive skills and their academic performances are improving or decreasing based on how much they go on social media and using these devices. So that data is also important. And then policymakers can also set up uh, rules, laws, or give recommendations to uh, people who uh, feed this content into these systems,
Mm.
because that is also important. We just talk about how young people should uh, be protected from this negative side of the uh, digital world. But then again, it's also important that policymakers and other uh, other parties who create this content, who develops different applications and platforms, there should be some ethical regulations that should take place and create appropriate content and create appropriate platforms for young children to be able to navigate safely.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Hmm.
yeah, there are different parties in this. This is a teamwork, and different people, different professionals can bring in their own expertise to get the best out of this.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And I hope we're able to protect and empower young people to be
Yeah.
able to use this. Amazing. I want to touch upon some tips and tools and advice for a psychologist, a young psychologist who wants to do research like you, who wants to, you know, from an Eastern country, go to Finland and, do a PhD, or, they want to study something like you are. What would you tell them? How should they go about applying at a university like University of Helsinki? What are their options? Yeah.
Yeah, this is a nice question because this brings back memories where when I worked as uh, when I applied to this program, and also when I was working for University of Oulu in the marketing where we promote how to apply, how to get do their own research and stuff like this when
Yeah.
if they want to apply for a master's or a PhD outside their country. And yeah, I think you just have to do your own research. And to do your own research, you can, uh, for example, the first thing we do nowadays is like just use generative AI, be it ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, or anything. Just type, okay, so how do I do this? Like getting these kind of practical tips. But then it's not enough. And then if it's good as a starting point. You can get more information uh, that you didn't know before. So it's good as a starting point to use these open AI platforms to get this information. And then you just have to do your own research by going to the different websites of these universities and see their ranking and then their impact and then what kind of fields they cover in their university and what kind of campuses they have and what kind of courses they offer. And then also for non-EU students, it's difficult because of the tuition fee, because we have to pay tuition fee if we want to do a master's in an EU country. So
Mhm.
those kind and what kind of scholarships you have, these kinds of things are really important if you're applying for a master's degree. And if it's a PhD too, you just have to just narrow down your search. It's impossible if you like search every university in the entire world for you to do a PhD. So just select few countries if and then just then again narrow down from universities to campuses and then from campuses to your own field, whether they even offer such a program to you. So you just have to do that. And then with PhDs, it's really important that you write uh, to supervisors, and then especially in many universities, they have very good university website, so you can find their information there, and then you just write to them.
Mm.
So that's what I did when I applied to my PhD. Just write. You just create your own template, and then you just fine tune it based on your supervisors or these professors that you're writing to, based on their interest.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then just then hope for the best because
Yes.
it can be a very exhausting process when it comes to applying for PhDs because you can get negative responses, you can get zero responses, and it just, yeah,
It's an overwhelming process, but
yeah,
yeah, on the
yeah.
other side, there's yeah, it's worth it, right? Are
It's
you
worth trying. Yeah.
yeah, are you enjoying your doctoral studies, your time at Finland, at the University
Yeah.
of Helsinki? Yeah,
Yeah,
what's
I think it's really important that you engage in other activities rather than
mm,
just doing your research, because that can be really overwhelming. You just have to find your balance. But I think in Finland overall everything's like really well balanced. So even if you feel like you're not doing enough, you need to do more, then there's this uh, balanced lifestyles that we should consider. And like it's especially coming from a very competitive academic environments in Sri Lanka, I felt I constantly, even now, I constantly feel like, am I doing enough? Is this enough? And things like that. But then again, uh, comparing to my Finnish colleagues, it's reassuring because they don't see this work as their life.
mm,
That's really important. That's something I learned from them, because this is not your life. This is just your work, your academic life, and then you have a different life uh, outside this academic world, and you just have to enjoy that as well.
yeah,
And otherwise, you will be exhausted, and then there will be burnout and stress and other problems.
yeah, absolutely. We were just talking about how Finnish people don't think of work as their whole life. This is part of their life. So, what is Finland doing right? What is the Finnish way of living? How are they so happy? If you had to compare it with other cultures, your travels, anything, any insight you can give us on Finland being the happiest country in the world.
Yeah, that's a difficult question, because if you ask a Finnish person, they would be like, "Ah, well, it's just that's how it is," kind of a
Yeah.
very neutral answer.
Mm-hmm.
So they they don't take pride in being the happiest country in the world. It's just it I how I would like to rephrase this happiness is like they're content
Mm,
with life. They're very satisfied
mm,
in their lifestyles. So that could be a different thing when it compared to happiness per se.
yeah.
But this satisfaction they get from how they spend their lives, I think it's also something to do with simplicity and connecting with nature, especially because Finnish people love their nature, and they just try to be outside as much as they can during summer. They just go for walks, even in the winter. They just engage in these physical activities that would eventually have a very positive effect on their well being, both physical and mental well being. So,
Mm,
this is a very nice thing I observed, and this is a very good thing I also trying to adapt to, because we come from very busy and competitive environments and lifestyles back from home. And this is here, it's very slow paced, and you actually have time to think to yourself on what you do and how your lifestyle is shifting from one thing to the other. So these sorts of things are really important. And then also, if we talk about Finland in general as a country that's high in the happiness index record, I think their social welfare benefits are really uh, nice, and that's also one thing why they are the happiest in the world. And Finland really respects their people, so they just want to take care of them. And if and there are really good healthcare systems if you want to reach for both physical and psychological support.
mm,
So these kinds of things are also important, and then they eat healthy food just like many other European countries. And I think, yeah, overall, everything combined would make Finland a very happy country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's more focus on nature and eating well and social and benefits. Something that we could learn from the East, from your country, Sri Lanka. Anything that you would recommend or compare with Finland, where you would be like, okay, this is something that is also worthy of noting when it comes to well-being and happiness and mental health.
Yeah, actually, well, in Sri Lanka, it's a collectivistic country,
Yeah.
and Finland is an individualistic country. Like the society is individualistic, and they do not have many connections. Just but then the connections they have, they're really precious to them,
Mm,
and that's how they live. And but then there's also some dark sides to this, because then they feel more isolation compared to other countries, and that would also increase the suicide rates even more,
yeah.
because they don't have anyone to share their burden. So that's a downside to being an individualistic culture.
Mm,
Uh, but then they have really good systems that could take care of them if they reach out for support, any kind of support. So that's there. But in Sri Lanka, even though it's a collectivist culture and you have so many people around you, that would be also the very reason you don't see for you don't look after your mental health, because you put others first all the time. And then if you feel like you're facing something difficult and you need help, you might not, first, you might reach for informal help from your friends, family, uh, some colleagues even, but that's not professional help. If
mm,
you need professional help, there's this stigma around it that being physically sick and mentally sick are two different things
mm,
in the eastern part of the world. And there's there's this shyness, or um, there's this laid back nature uh, to go seek help when you need it. So
yeah.
yeah, that's a
That's
problem I see in Sri Lanka.
absolutely, that's something a lot of Eastern countries do struggle with, India as well. When it comes to stigma, people are not reaching out because they're afraid of the judgment. And
Yeah,
I hope we can learn from each other, and we all countries can be happy. And
yeah,
yeah, I really hope I'm so happy that you joined in, and that you've shared with us your research, your experience, your understanding in the digital well-being space. This is so valuable for anyone who's watching, a young person, a parent, a psychologist. So thank you for joining in and sharing your knowledge with us.
yeah,
And it's been a pleasure to get to know you and collaborate with you. And I hope we continue to collaborate in the future as
yeah.
well.
Likewise, yeah. And thank you for having me here in your podcast. This is the first time that I'm in a platform like this, talking about my research in a more informal manner. So this is really nice. This is a very good experience for me as well when I go towards the end of my PhD. So I have
Yes.
practice. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for giving me
Of
this
course.
opportunity, and I
Of
wish you best of luck with your podcast series. And
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to see the next one as well.
Thank you so much. I wish you all the best, and I know you're going to
Yeah,
rock all of your PhD vivas and your thesis, and you're going to be amazing.
yeah.
So,
Thank you so much.
thank you.